How are you now?
Good, and you?
Not so bad. Actually, with this episode, I should say deadly.
Deadly.
So, welcome to this episode of How Are You Now? I'm Dean, and
I'm Tiara.
we are here today with Grace.
Hello.
Hello, Grace. How are you now?
Oh. I'm so full of tacos and tacos. But that's the way to go.
So sorry for the delay since our last episode. A lot of life stuff happened in the last bit, but we are on a little mini vacation right now. Me and Dean and my sister Grace at the ocean.
And in Moclips.
Moclips.
And we can't recommend it enough.
Oh my God.
It's
So
gorgeous out here.
beautiful.
Ugh, I want to live here.
And you get to watch people line up to watch the sun go down.
Right?
Very creepy.
Yeah, it's almost like some weird sort of cult has gone out there.
But like not last night.
Sunsets.
There was not a lot of people out there last night. Like
No, I
tonight, there was a huge amount.
I didn't see anybody out there last night.
There was like one car on the beach last night. So
Like the seeds of Easter Island is what it looked like. Just, they were all lined
The
up.
children of the beach.
Not the corn, the beach.
there you go.
Children of the beach.
Children. And they were so disappointed. Like people were still standing there after sunset, even though it was light enough that you could see, but because everything was behind the clouds.
Right.
So like the sunset was gorgeous above the clouds.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite like at the horizon, which I think all of those people were hoping for.
But it was kind of pretty today. It was nice and sunny for part of the time.
Beautiful.
Could not believe the rest of the country is underneath a polar vortex.
Right?
And it was almost, 50?
It was like 46 or 47 here, and we are
Yeah.
literally on the ocean. Out of our window right now, we see the Pacific Ocean.
We have the window open in our bedroom.
Yeah. Part of that is it sounds amazing at night, but
It does.
and all the frogs.
Yes. They're froggy.
I had no idea there were frogs by the Pacific Ocean.
Yep. So let's talk about Letterkenny. Yeah. The final episode of season one.
Yes.
Episode 6.
Classic.
The first cliffhanger.
Yeah, a fuss in the back bush. So, but before we do that, let's talk about the rave. So, we're just to recap where we left off. Last episode was the rave, which we talked to Dawn about.
Yes.
The rave was kind of, I think it was kind of a buildup of Stuart, about who he was. And we really get into that in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
That. So, what are your thoughts kind of from last episode?
I do find it really interesting how in the last episode we just kind of see Stuart completely lose it, like lose everything that he could have maybe been.
Yeah.
And
kind of gone off the rails.
Yeah, and in this episode, it is definitely like you can tell it's like just after, and he's like everyone around is very sensitive to him because they all saw this epic failure,
Right.
and understand that we'll
He's
talk
on
about that
the-
later, but
He's on the edge of that downward spiral, and they're not sure which way he's really gonna.
Right. Yeah.
go.
Because this one, it's kind of, is he going to dig himself out or is he going to dig himself to rock bottom?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so so that's kind of where we are going into this episode. Starting off with this episode, we start with Derry and Wayne hunting coyotes.
yep.
And we
What was it?
60 ahead.
60 ahead.
$60 a head, and so they're chatting like they always do, and Derry asks Wayne,
I think I'll have a bumper dump before we get started.
and so we find out a bumper dump is basically just
Holding on to the back of your truck while you lean down and take a shit.
right, leaning back,
Bracing.
Bracing,
Yeah.
yes.
Bracing.
lay on the bumper, take a dump, which is pretty much just like it sounds. And then he asks him,
You ever had a stump hump? I think I did, but I can't remember. It's when you have sex. With a girl? Yeah, with a girl. Bent over stump of a tree.
"Yeah, with a girl."
Yeah, with a girl.
Because otherwise there's splinters.
right,
And nobody wants splinters.
yeah, especially
That's
not,
in there.
yeah, it's very sensitive. So Derry spots the stump that's off to the side. He jumps over. He goes, "This looks like a good Stump Pump Stump.
He's got plans.
Yep.
And he's kind of starting to kind of explain what it is.
Yeah, and then he sees something, and he asks Wayne to come over. Wayne's a little confused because they're just talking about stump pumping, and he's on a stump, but
And he's very politely inviting him over all of a sudden.
yeah.
Does appear somebody's been growing marijuana in your back bush.
Yes. The way that he stands up, it's so like he's ready for a fight.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to fight that ganja.
I will beat up the weed. Beat the weeds.
The weed.
So that's so yeah.
Not how you whack the weed. No.
You know
No.
what? I had a question.
Yeah.
They said something about worm pickers.
Worm pick, and I did look up worm pickers.
Yes,
and
what is
now,
worm pickers?
Now, yeah, that's and we get to that in a later scene, but that's okay.
I guess I did not write it down in the right order. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So apparently, I don't know if it's just in their area, but there are people who go out, and that's a
Dig
thing
up
to
land.
pick up worms to sell for bait.
Bait and for composting stuff too.
All right.
And yeah, they'll just go out on people's land and
Dig
so
holes.
yeah. So yeah.
All right.
So that's where that
Not
comes
as interesting as some of the other things we've had to look at for Letterkenny.
Right. Yeah. Right after that, they're back. They're in the kitchen with Katie, talking about what they're going to do with the weed. Darius just said, "We need to call the cops and get rid of this." And they're like, "Wait a minute,
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done around here.
stuff needs doing." You know what? I mean, and up until just what was a month ago, weed was illegal in Canada. So, and now it's legal there. So, congratulations to our Canadian friends.
Hopefully soon it will be all across this lovely country.
Yes.
Please, we need it. Okay.
Please. So yeah, there's a discussion of what they're going to do with the weed. Katie has said that she knows somebody on the res who she can sell it to. Now I didn't pick up a name there.
No, just
yeah.
the guy she knows.
Yeah, just a guy she knows on the reservation. And then we cut then after that, because that's a very short scene. We cut then to, into with Stuart and Devin, the Skids, and then Tanis is back.
Yes.
Love Tanis.
And yeah, so
We had lots of discussions about Tanis today.
Yes, we did. So yeah, Tanis is making a deal with the Skids on smokes, darts,
Yep.
dime a dart. So she's going to sell just for their own personal use, not for them to resell, smokes at a dime a piece. Because on the reservation, you get them tax free, apparently,
Right.
like it is here,
Yeah.
right? So, they agree they're not going to resell dime a dart, but then
Of course.
Then cut to selling them to a
buck of
bunch of
dart.
school kids for a buck of
Yes.
dart.
right. So yeah, and then they get snitched on by
One of those kids.
One of the kids. They're fucking you.
We're
And
being fucked.
so that's
Actually, and that I wrote down here, no matter how much I find Tanis attractive and love her character in later seasons, the seeing her chew kind of ruined it a little bit for me, which made me it was such a bummer. I was like, no, Tanis.
because she's such a mob boss.
the chew.
Oh, the chew. Oh, the chew. I missed that. Yeah.
Yes.
The dip.
The dip.
that's
Thank you.
really
I
weird.
don't do it, so I don't know.
It's okay. So yeah, because I noticed that too this time. I guess I hadn't paid attention before. Was that she's got her spitter like Riley and Josie, but she also smokes.
Right.
So she covers all the tobacco bases.
She's got all of her means of intake cut and covered.
I also love how, because this scene is just a bunch of quick, this part is a bunch of quick little scenes. You see them going to meet Katie's connection,
Right. Yeah, that's the next scene.
Yes.
So after that,
like right after seeing Tanis fit into the thing, it
Yeah.
moved to that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you jump into that one and you see Wayne, Derry, Katie meeting with the connection on the reservation.
Yes.
And Katie hands her phone over. This is what we got. Don't keep scrolling, otherwise you're going to find some stuff you don't want to see. I kind of want to see what's
Don't
on her
go
phone. What do you think's on her phone?
Oh, I can only imagine what gets said to that girl.
Well, let's see. She's sleeping with two cute hockey players, and she very much likes not wearing clothes. So
But that's
It's not
but
her
she
forte.
said
It's not her
But she
forte.
says it's something you don't want to see. Just saying.
You know.
Anyway.
I'm gonna go with it's things that are sent to her.
That could very well be
there
it.
you go.
Yeah, that makes a
Speaking from
ton of sense.
There you go.
That's right. All those thirsty boys looking after you for the last 25 years.
So they're making the deal, and the connection has agreed to $5,000 for what for the deal.
They dig it up, he'll haul it away.
Yeah, and so Derry gets up and he sees this picture on the wall. Who's this? And I go,
that's my daughter,
that's
Tanis.
My daughter Tanis.
No,
And
my
she looks
strange,
very sweet.
my strange daughter.
Estranged.
Because they're estranged.
My
It sounds like you're saying
estranged daughter.
my estranged.
What's so estranged about it? So he gets a phone call. He leaves, and Derry sits down and looks at Wayne and Katie and says,
What about Tanis? What about her? I think I'm sweet on her.
I love that he gets sweet on somebody within
just from looking at a
just
picture.
or hearing a name.
Right? And what's, even funnier is, later seasons.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
And so they're sitting there, and Katie wants Wayne to say, you had a good idea. Say thank you and thank you for being a degen. And then she smacks him in the leg. And this my favorite line is,
Now, if you ever hit me and I find out about it,
Yeah, he's not kidding. He's not. He will say that to me.
if you ever hit me and I find out about it. So that's the end of that scene. And
But he did thank her for
He did-
knowing
he did, yeah.
for having degen friends, and you know what? We're valuable, us degen friends. Okay?
Goddamn right.
he one of
That's a
them
Texas size 10-4 there,
one
Grace.
of them degens
Thank you
from
so
up
much.
country. All right. So
Not from Quebec.
right. So that's the scene where about the worm pickers, because they're saying I don't know how you, because he was saying the guy who was saying that took a lot of tending to get that good.
Yes,
And
because it's not easy to grow
that's-
outside.
That's one of my questions that I have for later.
Is it? Okay. So we'll get to
Yeah.
that. So then we jump to the locker room.
Anybody who's been listening knows that I am not a fan of puke.
Jonesy is hurling into a bucket.
Because they probably had an endurance practice at hockey. I remember puke practices when I played roller derby.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
You would practice until you puked. Like that was the goal of the practice.
All right then.
But one of them was not acting like it was from exercise.
Right. So the coach was giving him shit.
Right.
All kinds
Fucking
of
embarrassing.
It's fucking embarrassing.
Or
And,
me on a full dose of Dex. Yes.
coach is going off on him, and then Riley notices Schmeltz over there.
Itching.
Yeah, itching and looking off.
And sweating.
Yeah. Realizing that he's on the meth.
Yeah.
And then they're like, how's this happening? And they start going through.
Even though they've been told
All
in the
those
past.
connections.
Right.
We-
So they start going from the
Well, we
skids.
only know the skids.
Yeah,
and then
Stuart
these
and
guys
Devin.
that hang out with them, and
Right.
then these guys who always hang out with those guys,
Like
and,
a phone tree
and then
of
those
meth.
guys who hang out with those guys,
Right.
and Letterkenny's a meth dude.
Right. And so that's when they decide they're going to go pay a visit to the skids and deal with some stuff.
Yes. Something that came up in all of that.
Yeah.
Ginger and the Boots were brought up.
Right,
because
they were.
They
Return of
used to
Ginger
do
and
meth.
Boots.
Yep.
They used to do meth,
They
apparently.
were doing the meth. And then yeah.
That's how you get mixed up with ostriches.
Right?
So, yeah.
you know, I heard the Ginger and Boots used to do that shit. And look where it got them, Smell.
Absolutely.
Ginger and Boots, they did all the Wellesley and Carsey and the Billet sister.
Oh,
and,
that's right. Yeah.
Halsey,
And
yep.
what's a billet sister?
and a
I
billet
had to have
sister-
you look it up.
Yeah, so a billet sister. So when you are in a hockey team and you are moved to a town that you're not from, you are billeted or hosted by somebody, a family, and so a billet sister would be the daughter of that family. And that it's kind of it becomes your sister in a way. So your billet sister. So
Totally.
Yeah, that's what that comes from. Yeah, because
Not the same thing as an Eskimo bro. Billet sister.
What's
an Eskimo
bro?
I'm sure this is discussed later in the. I know they mention Eskimo
Okay.
bros.
I don't remember that one. So that must be a
me
later
following
episode.
me
Okay.
following the two of them talking does not happen.
Oh,
Like we watch these with subtitles for reasons
Yep.
because I cannot follow them.
Right. So,
But I love it.
Yeah. Then so we get back to behind the dollar store. The little kid that has snitched on him has called him back to the behind the dollar store. Tanis is there, and Tanis is.
No, that you are jumping ahead.
Oh, I see.
No.
Yeah, Tanis threatens the Skids.
Oh, and then they decide they're gonna throw down.
They're gonna the Skids want to start
that's
throwing
right.
down.
Right, so they strip down to throw.
I'm sorry.
Yous ripped me off, and I'm fucking pissed.
So yeah, so Tanis is telling she's pissed off that they're selling them for $1 after she sold them for personal use. This is kind of where we find out more about Tanis's character. The boys, the Skids, Devin and Stuart think they're gonna fight, and they're just gonna take their ass kicking and be off.
Until we get paid, they all suffer.
So Tanis said, "No, this is about the money. You fucked us, and we're gonna start
Burning the town down.
Let the burning of Letterkenny begin.
Yeah.
right." So, so that's where we find out about Tanis is what she's all about. It's the money.
But I do
Or
want to
else.
say one thing that I loved about that scene is, it's a confrontation. So the Skids are, well, we're going to throw down. So that means we got to take off our shirts and strip down.
We know you're gonna kick her ass, so let's
Right.
do this. Just get
Right.
it over with. No.
And Devin is luminescent. Like,
That's true.
he
would glow in the
literally
dark.
Glows. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I pointed out while
Yep.
we're watching it is how Stuart, because I know Tyler Johnston is both
Gorgeous.
those guys are in shape. He's like you can see he's sticking his gut out to make it look like he's got. Yeah, he's not fit. Dude is fit. He is well fit. So
Yeah, he had to make himself not appear as fit
And
in the
leave his
scene.
shirt hanging down so that you couldn't see the line.
Right.
Got the line. We know.
And that's okay, baby.
You keep it safe.
so from there the next scene. We're jumping to
My favorite scene
We're back to the farm,
My favorite scene
and
ever.
they're starting to build the produce stand. And Katie brings out some lemonade for the boys
Wear
doing the
cute
hard
little
work.
short overalls and a bra or something.
Right.
Little crop top.
And
I appreciate her outfits or lack thereof.
and so we get to the that's what we appreciate. It's about, is that what you appreciate? It's about me, and dial it down. And he puts his lemonade down and runs off and says,
Your sister's hot, Wayne. There, I said it.
and he's panting.
And everyone else just sits there and watches him run away.
Too fat to run.
Halfway across the field.
Too
No,
fast.
like 20 feet away.
I regret nothing.
I regret nothing.
So yeah, that is I will never not love Squirrely Dan
Yep.
having the hots for Katie.
Katie's hot.
Yeah, Katie is hot.
Like
So
Katie's not.
Squirrely Dan.
Personally, I probably wouldn't date her, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Your sister's hot, Wayne. There, I said it.
Finally.
Finally,
So proud.
I'm gonna say it. Get it out of the way. So the next scene is
Showing up at the meth lab.
Boys.
yeah, the Riley and Jonesy show up at the meth lab.
Looking for a Donnybrook.
Yeah, they've got their their panties on over their heads.
The hat's on
With
top of their
hats on top of
pantyhose.
that.
Full pantyhose, not just the foot, the entire leg.
Yeah.
Entire, like bunny rabbit
With the
ears.
other one hanging down, yeah.
They look completely
Precious.
completely ridiculous. So and they start to get in there. They're gonna peek in, and
They decide, they're talking at the fence about like that they're waiting for them to get there, and they're like, well, why are we waiting? We're going to
Right.
go trash the meth lab. And
right.
and then again, I can never remember which because I'm
They're-
terrible. But one of them is like, why are we waiting?
Yeah, we don't have to wait.
But then, I got dibs on Devin.
Yeah, dibs on Devin.
I'm talking about dibs right now.
We're not talking about dibs right now. We're gonna get them all.
No dibs.
We're gonna get them all. So they get down there and they see that the meth lab has been completely trashed. Everything in the basement has been turned over, and then they decide, we just got to go hunt them down and
Kick their asses.
and kick their
That's
ass.
the only way it's going to be dealt with.
Right.
We are at this level, but we need to get to this level.
They're getting pumped up for their Tilly. They have been They have been without Tilly, blue balled on the Tilly.
Yes.
For a while now.
Yes.
So that's what they're itching for a fight.
It's Donnybrook time, boy.
Right, it's Donnybrook Tilly time, and so the very next scene, we're back that night.
The fruit stand.
The produce stand, the new produce stand that
they just built. Yep.
has been burnt down, and there's no dialogue in it at all.
Nope.
But Wayne, first you see his shock on his face,
Like,
and he's just
and
like,
then pissed off.
and then
Yeah.
it cuts away and cuts back, and then he just goes from shock to he's pissed, and he gets the cigarette out.
Yep, that's
Lights it on the fire.
Right, and then walks off. And so then we're back to the very next day. The contact, the weed contact, has come to pick up the weed and explains to him that
Why it got set on fire. There's beef.
Right. He says, so the beef, and that your friends that have the meth dealers, and Wayne is like,
2 things. 1, no one who does meth is a pal of mine, for fuck's sake. 2, what are you talking about?
so he breaks it down that if Tanis is owed money, if she's being shifted out of the money, that everybody's going to feel it. And so then that's when everybody shows up behind the dollar store. And so
God bless the dollar store.
We got the Skids. We've got
The Skids walking up on the hockey boys.
Right. First it's the Skids and the hockey players. Then Tanis and her crew shows up.
Yes.
And as they're arguing, and Tanis gives the
My balls dangle harder than you.
Which was a throwback. That was a throwback to the native flu conversation
Right,
back
right.
in episode.
I think that was was that was
It's early, right?
that was 4, I think, or that wasn't Fart Book, was it? I don't remember. So Tanis is this is going to continue, and then Wayne shows up with this is my favorite
The whole crew.
spin on the How Are You Now?
How are you now?
Good, and you?
Deadly.
Deadly. And you see who's popped in behind the standard crew.
Oh boy!
And this is the first time we actually see them.
You see a redhead and a brunette with
Yep.
sunglasses on, just standing there, not
Right.
saying anything.
And so
Tanis notices
Tanis
them.
notices the ginger and Boots have arrived. And so they have
The
a whole
notoriety has already struck.
and so they're talking about the fucking an ostrich and
Allegedly.
and then she gives the
If they fucked an ostrich, what else have they fucked?
Right?
The question must
Right?
be asked.
it must be and
Seriously.
yeah. And so that will get into the unanswered questions, I guess.
Yeah.
But then so Wayne says, I'm going to make a deal with you. I don't know how much money you're out, but we're going to say it's $5,000. And one of her crew says it's more than that. And Dan goes,
We'll come fucking play it!
Which with subtitles said what?
it's tough fucking sledding. and so she makes the deal. And she's about to leave
Because she doesn't want to fight the ginger and Boots.
but she
No.
turns back to give
She could have
Stuart-
gotten away. They were going to let her go
Right.
with $5,000.
Well, yeah. So yeah,
but she had to insult
She had to
Stuart.
get it in.
and she's like, leave him alone. Wayne's like, leave him alone. No, and I'm not talking to you. And just kind of digs at him and digs at him and digs at him. And that's kind of sting. And then Katie shows up, and
Oh, Katie's been hearing the whole thing, I'm guessing.
right,
Yep.
she's kind of off to the side, and
I'll tell you, it's got to sting a little bit.
God bless a cunt.
Well, fucking get after it then.
And the brawl begins.
the brawl begins, and everybody's fighting. The money falls on the ground at some point. Wayne picks it up.
Grabs Tanis around the waist to pull her out of the melee.
And hands her, and scoops her away, hands her the money, And
I feel like that right there is where later things
Yeah.
happen,
Yes.
where later things started.
Right.
Because
Could be-
like
yeah, very well.
after she got kicked, like this is almost immediately after, from what they say, like she's still on the ground.
Right.
And you know, he like picks her up and they like look into each other's eyes. He puts the money in her hand. She looks down at it, looks back up at him, and then the scene is
Side
over.
eye and sidle out of steam.
Right.
And so then we're back at Modine's.
Yes.
The fight's over.
Yeah.
We're back at Modine's, and everybody's there.
Everybody's there.
with the exception of the Christians. So there's no Pastor Glenn there.
No.
Right.
Glenn.
Not in this
So,
episode.
But in Modine's, we have the hockey players, the Skids, and the Hicks all together sitting at a table. Gail brings over a bottle of Gus and Brew,
Yep.
which is their whiskey, and they on the house.
So when they're sitting there talking, like one of the funny things for me watching this episode, I remember the first time watching this and commenting on Joint Boy stopping and
God,
lighting,
yeah.
lighting a
Yes.
joint,
Right.
Which then I commented on again today when we were rewatching it, and then the line when they're
Right.
sitting around the table, like, did you stop to smoke a joint in the middle of that?
And then give
Nectar of the
The
gods,
gods.
boys, nectar
Nectar of the gods, fellas. Yep.
Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree, Joint Boy.
Thank you.
I told you he was hot. Come on
Yeah.
now.
So they're all having their good time. Wayne is saying, I'm looking forward to a little peace and quiet.
Wait, they're passing the bottle around.
Pass the bottle around. Yep.
And they don't want to. Some of them don't want to pass the bottle to Stuart.
Right.
Katie takes the bottle, takes a big old drink, hands it to Stuart,
Right.
like showing, he's okay.
Now
And
what's
in that moment, you see his face, and he feels the camaraderie.
He
with
feels
the rest of the
worthy of
table.
being there.
he's
Yeah,
he's part of the team. He's
for once they're not
the
laughing
family.
at him.
Right.
They're kind of
They
it's the
protected
family.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of something I've said throughout this first season is that it's really, even though everybody's fucked up in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
They're still part of this. Is our town. These are
a
our
community.
people, right? So yeah. Then and then Wayne is like, I'm looking forward to a little peace and quiet. I think everything's good. And then fella walks in, and
Who the fuck is the toughest guy in here?
Everybody turns to look at Wayne.
That'd be me.
Pitter-patter, motherfucker.
So they Wayne gets up, and now this fella that is credited in this episode as Big Scary Dude.
Right.
We don't. Find
He didn't have a name yet.
Right, he does not have a name in this episode. We find out later that his name is Tyson.
Yes.
But we'll talk about that in future episodes.
Yes.
In any case, we find out Wayne goes out, and
Seems to me like he didn't square off like he normally does.
Right.
So I was
There-
like, did he just
was
get
it a-
sucker punched?
Was it a sucker punch?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is, I feel like, yes, it was, because it ended on a cliffhanger. Like, it was
Right.
punch, down, end of scene.
Right.
And nobody had knocked him down before.
Right.
But also,
Right.
it wasn't the same thing that we had seen before, so.
Right. So yeah. So and that's the end of the episode.
Yep. End of the first
So,
season.
Yeah, end of the first season, end of the episode. That's the cliffhanger.
Yep.
So what happened? So so yeah, my inclination was from watching that was that it seemed like a sucker punch because they slowed it down and it's like he turns around. There's a heartbeat in the punch and then
Yep.
he goes down and that's it. So thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have thought? That's your thought? Yeah.
That's my thought. That's,
I've had too much nectar of the gods. I just
haven't.
enjoyed it so much.
when do you not enjoy it, Grace?
So, I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Unanswered. Let's jump into the
Okay.
unanswered questions on this one.
So, easy first question. Who planted and cultivated all of that pot in the
Right.
backyard, in the back acre of their farmland?
Right. Yeah.
Someone who actually knew what they were doing, because growing pot outside in Canada is not easy. Okay, growing pot outside. period.
So
because
for-
my understanding of that area. Sorry, go ahead.
So, for listeners, so that you guys understand this, Grace used to work in medical marijuana research before it was legalized in the state of Washington, and she knows a shit ton about marijuana, which is part of the reason why we invited her on this episode.
Right, and cultivation as well.
Yes.
Well, I certainly don't know everything. I'm not an expert.
Of course not. Nobody is accusing you of being an expert.
I dearly, dearly love it, and I believe in it as both a patient and as a recreational user, but mainly as a patient.
Now.
Right.
Yes.
Didn't start off that way.
Right. So anyway, yeah, you're well versed more than 90% of the population, I would say. How about that?
Currently, probably less so.
She's being
Very modest.
humble.
So I would say that out of everybody in this house, you know more than anybody.
Probably.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
Okay.
So,
Absolutely.
and none of us in this house are stupid. So
Absolutely.
so there you go.
Yeah, we have a scientist, a pharmacist, a teacher, and an IT computer god. So
Anyway, so yeah, you know a lot. We'll go with that. You know a lot. So
It's a happy place for me.
There you go.
There
Yes.
we go.
All right. So yeah. So I mean that area of Canada in Ontario and Sudbury, or because he's talking about skeeters and stuff, and skeeters, that it's got to be warm and it's got to be humid.
Yes.
So
they're-
it's
and
like the
they're
Great
getting
Lakes
sun.
area of the United States.
Right.
You're close enough to some water that you would get a lot of that humidity.
Right.
And anytime there's any standing water whatsoever, you could get mosquitoes. So when you put those two things together, from my understanding, that's not a really great environment for.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would think that that they're getting enough rain where there's going to be pockets of standing water. I mean, that there's enough heat so that you're getting sun for things to grow. So it's not like where you're in a very cold or dry part of Canada.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
We're not up at the Arctic Circle.
Right.
It's nothing like that. And of course, there are different growing seasons, and but whoever was planting in the back field
Knew what they were doing.
knew that they needed to have a south-facing slope and a good drainage site in order to make sure that stuff would grow. Otherwise, hey man, we all have
Again.
things we love, and I love
Hey,
the
this-
green stuff.
This is why you're here, baby. This is why you're here.
So if you were
Besides
to-
the fact you're my sister.
So of the people that were in that have been in all the episodes so far, who would you have picked? I mean, just out of your own speculation.
Seriously, I would not be surprised if it was the Mennonites.
No, we haven't seen
met
them yet.
We have not met them yet.
We have not met
This is
them.
season one, remember?
Season one. Out of all the
Damn
people
it.
we've seen
That's
in
what I was
season
talking
so
about.
basically everybody we've seen in season one has
So-
been in this episode.
Yes, except for the church people.
Correct.
So I kind of have a theory that it's Katie.
Really? Okay.
Like she did it without, she knew she wouldn't get her brother's permission.
Good thought.
So-
she wanted to.
Well, and
Your
here's,
eyes got big. Your eyes got so big.
well, here's the other thing. I'm always thinking about how she's rolling around with the hockey boys and sending them to get her candy.
She knows people who will buy huge amounts of
Right.
marijuana
Right.
as well,
Yes, she knows how to move the product
which is probably the hardest part.
So,
Legally or not legally.
right?
so she's being manipulative.
Yeah, that's my
Okay,
That's my
that's not a bad
prediction.
Thought. That's
Well, it can also be her way of bringing in again her own income,
sure.
right? Because shit's got to get done around farm.
Things need doing.
Right.
Things need
Yeah.
doing.
As soon as it was discovered, she's like,
Well,
well,
what I
know people.
find funny about that though, that prospect is Katie doesn't seem to do anything.
Oh, I'm not saying that she. I wasn't saying that she did it. I'm saying
No.
that she came up with the idea. Like she probably got some
I see.
cute boy that liked her to do it for her. But
Probably
like,
joint boy.
Joint Boy.
Sorry, what?
Now? Now I'm thinking about Joint Boy.
he probably smokes a little too much to do the actual like physical work.
Yeah, he'd get called in for the trimming.
Yeah.
You think? Well, it could have been that her contact at the res.
Just didn't want to
They were working.
They're working together
They had
and
a
not-
plan all together.
because
Right.
she's got the land. He knows
Right.
how to move it.
Right.
And this way, she got Wayne to thank her.
Right? Not just that, she kind of made him think it was her idea or his idea.
Right. Yeah.
Like watching that for the second time today,
Yeah.
which is probably like the 6th or 7th time I've watched this episode, it really kind of dawned on me that she was really quick to come up with what to do.
Right.
And didn't seem shocked at all about the fact that there was a huge amount of marijuana growing in their backyard.
Katie's always got a plan.
I believe that.
Katie's always got a cunt punt.
Right?
That's all I gotta say. I fell in love.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see.
Like that's the biggest one for me. That bugged me the whole
Right.
episode.
So any other are there any other ones that you have? Grace, any from you? Or any?
Not so much. I was mostly thinking about how much I love the Hockey Boys and how when they're talking, it's like watching a foreign dialect almost. You know,
Yes.
like you already knew it was going to be a slightly foreign language, but then you
Right.
headed off deep into this offshoot where you think you know it's a word,
Right.
but
Shorzy and Wellesley and
Shorzy and Wilson.
and Ballsy and Billet system, and how quickly they did. I'm still super impressed with how quickly they just riff, boom, 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 boom,
It's
all
beautiful.
that stuff. So that's got to take a lot of practice to get that timing of that right. Not just to memorize it, but time it.
And
How
their
many
core
times they probably
strength
record
must
it.
be intense.
Right?
Because the way that they're able to yell like that, like, oh, it makes my belly button hurt a little bit.
Right.
But I'm just like, you know what? You guys keep doing your Kegels. I'm proud of you. Good. Yes.
But they'll skip leg day, but not Kegel day.
No. Those are important.
That's a
guys.
Texas size 10-4 on that.
They're not 10-ply when it comes to that. So any new terms that we learned on this one?
Billet sister.
Billet sister, we learned. Worm pickers.
Yep, worm pickers.
There was something that Tana said in there, and it was kind of as she was walking away one time, and I think she was speaking it in whatever her native tongue was, because it did not sound like English, and so I kind of wish I was able to pick that out, whatever it was that she was saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like she was the last insult coming from in her native tongue. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And yeah, I love Tia Horn. She is awesome.
I fell in love with her watching. I saw Hemlock Grove
Oh yeah,
on Netflix.
Was she in that?
Yes.
Very cool.
And
I bet she's been on Supernatural as well.
I believe she actually has.
I would not be surprised at all.
And yes, I totally read her IMDb page. And she's a fantastic actress. Really amazed by all of her activists.
Yes, she's awesome.
And,
If you
her mother.
Some of the YouTube videos watching her talking about her life is
Right.
just really, yeah.
bringing attention to Indigenous
Right.
Yeah.
issues.
Especially in
and
Totally.
Canada where Indigenous people are like,
murdered more
Jesus.
than
I don't-
anyone else.
Yeah, I
well,
don't-
not just that. Like I shared an article on
Sterilization,
Facebook
forced
today
steril-
that there were
yeah.
forced sterilizations of Native women, Indigenous women, and that is in this country that kind of billets itself as being savior for U.S. people who are trying to escape what we have now.
right.
Like, I don't feel, as a person of color who is also Canadian, I don't feel like Canada is necessarily any safer than the U.S. is right now, and that's really depressing to me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm being a straight white guy, I'm pretty much safe anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's politically speaking, I care about more than just me, and it's not just because I'm married to a queer person of color who happens to be
Which
partially Canadian.
Probably helped you a bit, though, kind of get some
well,
of your
it-
more leftist ideas.
well,
if we
I
think
mean,
of left and right
yeah.
as two opposite ends instead of lefties being in the middle, like I feel.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But
this is not a political
It is
episode.
not.
No.
But we are definitely on board with Tio and all of her
Yes.
activism, and we support that wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And we would love to have her on at some point in time.
Oh, God, that would
she
be amazing.
So yeah, she seems like a really cool person. So. But yeah, and you may have noticed in this out of all the clips that I pulled, I did not pull a single Stewart because he didn't really say much.
No.
But this was. It felt like it was there was a lot about him.
And all in his face. You're
Oh,
an
yeah.
amazing actor, Tyler. You're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, he is. He's. I mean, yeah, you can feel.
The pain coming
Yeah.
out of him. Yeah.
I mean, he does.
And the embarrassment and the shame of being
At the end of the rave.
the one that, oh, God,
Totally.
yes.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
then
yeah.
the acceptance
Yeah.
You know, sitting there all bruised and bloodied up with all of these people who were all bruised and bloodied up because you done fucked up. And they still stepped up
Right.
for you. And now you're going to have Gus and Brow. Fucking Modines. The whole crew.
Yep. It was a very good. I think this out of the episodes in this season, this is probably my favorite because it really kind of ties
Even
everything
over
together. Yeah,
a super soft birthday.
yeah. Super soft birthday. I love. I mean, just
Love,
because,
love. That
because
should
it's-
be like the gateway drug for anyone getting into Letterkenny. Like, this is an episode that really tells you what this series is about.
Right.
Whereas that episode is like literally like cotton candy. It
Yeah.
just makes you want more.
right. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So let's get to what
What are we going to do?
fight, fuck, and Ferda. So.
Have you been listening to our episodes? So in this episode, based solely on this episode, would you fight, fuck, or basically be like super bros with these particular characters?
Right.
Okay.
And so we'll start
It's like
off
fuck,
with
marry, kill, but
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So fight, fuck, Ferda. So we're gonna start off with the Hicks.
Yes.
So we're gonna start off with Wayne.
based on this episode.
Right.
Fuck.
Okay.
Almost always fuck.
Yeah.
Like I just want to see his O face.
It's probably squinted and
Well, see, that's his
squinted and
normal
pursed
look.
lips.
I feel like his eyes would get really big, and like he would be like staring into your soul because it's the first time he's opened his. Like that's literally what I imagine.
Joy.
I imagine.
Christmas.
I imagine Wayne is a secret little.
He does.
all right.
He's so buttoned up. That will never ever.
Yeah,
be a
and at the
thing.
beginning of this episode, super buttoned up all the way.
All the way
to
That's
11.
right.
Yep.
Right?
So then let's go with Derry.
Derry's always so cute in this first season. There's very little that is not endearing about
And appealing.
him. Yeah. In this season.
Right.
Yes.
And I find it adorable that he so wants love that he'll look at a picture and just be like, she's pretty. I like her now.
Sweet on her
Kind
now.
of sweet on her.
So cute. Like,
If she makes your dick hard, get after it.
right? Right? Like, fuck. Life's short, baby. Go for it. Come on.
So
little
so
curls.
what is it? Fight, fuck, or Ferda?
Oh, for Derry?
Yeah, for Derry.
Fuck.
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 We're fucking Derry.
Fucking
Okay.
I like that you
so-
just said we're fucking
We're
Derry.
fucking Derry.
Fucking dare. That's just gonna happen.
Katie.
I always go back and forth on Katie because I think she's cute. I love like the toughness of her. I don't know. Technically she's not my type, but I'd probably still fuck her
Okay.
in this episode.
No. Would
No.
not fuck.
Yeah, okay.
Totally would chill with her.
So Ferda.
Ferda for
Ferda.
sure.
All right.
All right then.
All right. And Squirrely Dan.
Oh, fuck. Give me that big round man.
Right?
I'm gonna bury myself in that beer. Just fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzy. It's good.
Seriously,
He's got all the
I regret nothing.
baby. Sled on me.
Oh my god.
Hairless. It's great.
That's like one of my favorite things about all of that is just like he is okay. So there was a meme going around Facebook the other day that was dad bod is just straight for bear. And fuck yeah, like
Yes.
yeah. I just want to snuggle him so much.
I bet he's got
much.
treats in his overalls for me.
Right?
You know?
He wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So that's the Hicks. So let's go with the Skids. Stuart.
Ferda, I want to help him. This episode. This episode.
Okay, this episode.
Ferda?
This episode. Ferda.
All right. Devin. I kind of
In
would.
this-
I
in
would.
this-
I'd
It's
fight him.
not kill. It's fight. Fight.
Sorry, fight.
Yeah, I agree because he's
He's
like
too pale. It makes me nervous.
Well, not only that, he's like the devil on Stuart's
Yeah.
shoulder. He's trying to,
Or just like.
I mean, he fucked
when-
him over in the rave.
Right, but when they're talking to Tanis, he tries to like help Stuart get an out in this, because Tanis is like, fine, sell the rest of them for $1. We get 90 cents, you get 10, and he's like, deal.
Yeah.
Like without even thinking about it, he's like, deal. Let's just get this over with. Deal. And
He just
Stuart's
wants
like,
money.
Fuck you. No.
Well, he wants-
Stuart
Yeah,
is the
he's-
one that wants the money.
Well,
Yeah.
Stuart is like, no, we can't
This is how
give
we
them the
recoup
money.
the
This
money.
is how
Yeah.
we're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't want to fight.
Yeah. No, it'd be
So-
fine. It'd be
and
fine.
I like
It
how he
would be-
brought, he
yeah.
brought drumsticks to the fight.
yeah, that was really cute.
Oh, Devin. Let's go with start with Tanis.
Oh God.
This episode.
Even in this
Even in-
episode,
yes.
like I find her a little intriguing. What can I say?
Yeah.
Yep.
I like a boss bitch.
I would like to struggle for domination with her. Yes.
So, because we don't really know any of the other folks. I mean,
Not yet.
Not yet.
None of
Just
the
know
others
they're
really
on the
have
teams.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
so
her crew.
But in the melee, in the fight, we also had Joint Boy.
Joint Boy.
Fuck.
Okay.
Because seriously, like stopping in the middle of the fight to smoke a joint and then get right back into it is just like the funniest fucking moment in
He's me.
that part.
Oh, yeah.
Even
He
look
is
alike.
you! Oh my god!
We have the same
Jesus
haircut.
fucking Christ!
Yeah. He's me.
Oh no, I can't fuck him.
And another thing I have ruined. Yeah.
Riley and Jonesy are a package deal.
No,
They're always a package deal.
Fight him because I don't like him in this episode. I mean, I understand.
Well, they're fight-
I understand the reasons behind, but based solely on this episode, I don't like that their solution was to go and beat up people instead of like trying to do something maybe constructive. And that's just, their first inclination. We're going to go and, bust up the meth lab.
Right.
Okay, cool. They go and they see the meth lab's been busted up. Okay.
So now we got to go fight them.
Now we gotta build
can't-
ourselves up and become these like tough, masculine, like toxic masculinity bros. Like,
True.
damn, we gotta
level up.
Yeah, I'm not into that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know me.
Yeah.
I like my comfy cozy.
Grace.
Yeah.
They're still cute. I'm not saying they're not cute.
Okay.
Oh, well, see, my whole deal is, no, I don't think that going out and busting ass is going to be the way you save the day, guys. But that's also the only way they know how to attack any fucking problem.
Very true.
Is to destroy it.
Yeah.
Eggs. Come on. But, so I know that's their only method of doing it. But yeah, now probably based on this episode alone, fight.
All right.
Because
I almost want to say Ferda, almost,
Almost.
but not
right.
quite. Not quite.
All
just
right.
right on that line.
Okay. And because they are in this episode and they are named Ginger and Boots, and I think they're a package deal too because they're always.
They would have to be,
Did you hear fucked an ostrich?
allegedly.
What else do they fuck?
If they fucked an ostrich, what else would they fuck? Yeah. So another hilarious thing about the fight scene
Yeah.
was Ginger and Boots were sitting there with their hands up, like looking around for someone to hit, but nobody would come near them. Nobody in the middle of this giant fight where everybody's fighting. They're just like, come on, it's like,
Somebody swing on me. No.
Everybody's like, fuck,
I
I'm not going
don't
to
wanna
win.
get-
Of silence.
I don't want to get
So-
any of that on me.
Right, which means I wouldn't want to fuck or fight because then I would have to touch.
Yeah.
And no.
So you'll do that. What Wayne did for this is Ferda for this
Not
particular fight.
For this particular fight, yeah.
For the fight.
For this fight.
Furthest fight. That's it.
Gail.
Oh yeah, you only see her for a second when she's like rubbing up on Wayne and giving him the whiskey.
free booze.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in this one, if I was liquored up enough, fuck.
Ferda, we're cool.
Ferda.
Me, Gail, always cool.
Ferda Gail. Ferda Gail.
For the Gale.
And he's not really, well, aside from being named as Big Scary Dude, Tyson.
Right.
So I think that's the last one. So how would you go with on Tyson?
Based solely on this episode,
Right.
not knowing anything from season 2 or beyond. Yeah, fight.
Fight him.
Because fucking sucker punch him? Dude.
Yeah, you
Nah,
come in
that's
and
not
ask
cool.
who the toughest guy is, and then
Nah, man.
you know how to throw down.
No,
a
you
proper-
come in looking
Right.
for a fair fight and then you change the rules.
We don't have that. Not in Letterkenny.
Not in Letterkenny.
That's not how we do things around here.
That's right. So I think that was a good wrap up.
Yeah.
I season 1 super solid.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to
Hooks you in.
getting into season 2. What are you looking forward to?
Finding out more about the natives, finding out more about like the side characters, not just the main. Like we know the most about the Hicks and Stewart,
Right.
and I want to know more about everybody else.
Right.
So
And I think we're gonna. I think in the next season we're gonna find out more about the McMurrays.
yes,
Yes.
Not just Mr. McMurray, but also his
wife and his daughter
Yep.
or his sister,
His sister,
who
yeah.
actually the first time we watched this show, and I wasn't paying as much attention when you first like were getting into it, and because I was still in school,
Right.
And I remember I missed in whatever that episode was. That was like episode 3 or 4 where it was the rave actually, so it was 5.
Right.
It's been a little bit now. When he starts talking about it being his sister and trying to hook him up with
Right.
his sister, like I totally missed that. And later seasons I'm like, no, it's like his daughter, right? Like because if she's an early college student
Right.
and he does not look like he's within a few years of her, and
He does look. He
Yes.
definitely looks older. He looks older than Wayne for sure.
yeah, and that's the point. Like most of these guys went to like school together,
Right.
And Bonnie obviously went to school with some of them because
Right.
she talks about how she and the other girls used to like moon over Wayne, and when he would dance with his ex-girlfriend
Angie.
how every girl would wish that it was her, and
Right.
so it's obvious that she's within a couple of years of Wayne and the main crew. But
Sure.
how much older is her older brother?
Yeah.
Because to me, if I was to just guess, I would have thought he was like 30 or older.
Sure.
He's got some hard years in them
He's
tight
got some
jeans,
hard years, yeah.
squeezing in them fuckers every day.
the
So,
too tight t-shirts and
and I'm sure that whoever this,
clenched up.
I'm sure that actor is like an amazing person and much more handsome when he's not all clenched up and wearing way too tight clothes. But
I appreciate the jeans, though. Hey, just saying.
Is that
bet
what
you
she
do.
appreciates about him?
It is. It is. It is.
yeah, so getting to know all of the other characters actually is, very much looking forward to that.
What are you looking forward to? Anything
Season 2, yeah. More Glenn.
more, Glenn?
More Glenn. I do enjoy me some Glenn.
You're not a
And more joint
You're
boy.
not a didgeridoo.
Definitely not a didgeridoo. I am ready to get right with the Lord. Let's go.
Jacob Tierney is awesome as Glenn, and I'm glad he chose to take that on for himself.
Yes.
as well as write all the writing that he does for the show. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an amazing show. So I think that was a great season. I'm looking forward to jumping on season 2. Grace, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you so much for having me.
and we will have you on again most definitely.
Yes. Take a look through the seasons and especially season 2 and see if you find like that
Oh, I've
one that
got
you want to
some
talk
favorites.
about. All right, cool. We'll talk about that.
So we are on Twitter at the How Are You Now Pod. We are also on Facebook. I think it's also How Are You Now Pod. And we have a group there. So yeah, any questions?
No, the Facebook group is How Are You Now?
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how.
And then we're also on podscure.com.
Podscure.com. How Are You Now Pod?
PODSCURE.com.
Yeah, if you just go to podscure.com, you will find the link for the How Are You Now podcast. So yeah, we look forward to having you back again soon. So join us
Season 2.
coming up.
All right.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, great dog, burn that freeway down. I said, oh, great dog, burn that freeway.
Thanks for listening to this episode of How Are You Now? Find us on podscure.com/How Are You Now podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on Twitter and Facebook at How Are You Now Pod. Also, a big thank you to our good friend Jack Rainwater from Hard Money Saints for our intro and outro music. Check them out on Reverb Nation for deets and schedules. Take care.
You know, it's been too long since baby's been to town. my money in the daytime and that good loving every night. I said, oh.